Hi, welcome everybody. I'm going to open the space with some sound, and before I do, I'd like the sound of your beautiful voice from your beautiful body. So if each of us could just name where we are, either by its current name or its original name, whatever you can manage. So for example, I'm here in the East Bay of the San Francisco area, Ohlone territory.
I'm on Pawgasset land, Western Connecticut.
Multnomah Clackamas land, Oregon.
Abenaki lands, Southern Maine.
Gullible and Githable land in the east coast of Australia.
Squaxin and Nisqually land in the South Salish Sea.
Danai and Comanche, Texas.
I'm on Sklallam land in Port Townsend, Washington. Salish Sea.
Dumnon land in modern-day Devon, Ashbrington.
And Lakota land in Boulder, Colorado.
Osby land in Sweden.
Mexico, Oaxaca state.
We're in the Nez Perce land in Idaho.
I think that's everybody. All right. May this be an initial blessing on Nawat 2021. May all beings be blessed, happy and free. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And welcome again to Now What for April and May 2021, the second of our opening ceremony gatherings. And I'm going to introduce our host for this call, Jennifer Comeau, or turn it over to her in just a minute. But I also want to welcome you, Ben Roberts, and one of the conveners and organizers of this, part of the Now What Collective, and just want to encourage everyone who shows up here, including people watching this now that are joining over the course of the next 6 weeks, that this gathering and gift economy will be happening, that this is a collectively held space, and you're all invited to take shared ownership of that space with us and help to develop and build this pop-up village that we're creating together. We have some idea what will happen, but we also know that a lot will emerge. That's already been taking place today. And so you're all welcome wherever you are, whatever you believe, whatever your heritage, whomever you love, you're welcome here. Jennifer?
And already my cells have shifted. They're tingling with that beautiful invitation and blessing from Claire. This is the second opening ceremony. We had one earlier today, and opening is a portal. It's a threshold as we cross into unknown terrain of the co-creative, emergent spaces where we humans are living our lives as fully as possible amid a time of crisis. And so as this aperture widens over the next 6 weeks, we're going to celebrate, mourn, share, and hopefully laugh. Someone who will open up a ritual opening for us is Anayza, who is right now is of, I believe, Peruvian heritage and is currently in Mexico. So welcome, and on to you, Anayza.
Hello, thank you so much, Claire. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm actually of Panamanian heritage, and I'm currently in Mexico. I'm in a place where there are many sounds, and I'm outside, so let the sounds of this moment just be a part of the prayer we're raising and what is present here. As you can see, there's an altar set up, and I've brought objects from this land, the ocean water, sand, mangoes, and objects from my travel here on this altar. And I want to begin for each of us to feel into the object that reflects our own journey. That's like an object that is reflective of our path, of our soul. And you don't have to physically have it, but just to place it on our shared altar, place it on our within our collective experience. And just to take a moment right now to feel what is an object that's of form or not of form that you would want to put in our shared space. And there will be, you don't have to share it or anything, but just for us to feel it within our hearts. So we can feel in this moment the objects of our being and of our soul landing within our collective environment. We can feel as we're on a grid that's both elemental and light, that we are showing ourselves and showing up and dropping a reflection of who we are so that we can be seen and that we can see others in this space. Feeling our energies gather, feeling the path of our human bodies and our elemental souls gathering. As we gather here, I would like to invite and raise into this, excuse me, convergence, the elements of the land from which we come from, which we have been born this lifetime and many other lifetimes. May the elements of those lands be present here, and the lands of beings and forms that we do not see. May those elements be present here as well. Our ancestors and those who have come before our ancestors, the ancient ones, the indigenous ones. We humbly and in reverence ask for this space we hold together to be held within the frequency of their love and their knowing and their wisdom. Feeling ourselves within the continuum, those who have come before and those who have yet to come. Feeling ourselves on that spiral of infinity and eternity. In power and in deep gratitude, in humility of soil, and in the divinity of stars. We welcome ourselves and we vow to be welcomed. In this moment, we humbly invoke the beings of the celestial realms, of the earthen realms, beings that are within the earth and the ones that lie in upper heavenly dimensions, angelic, celestial, councils. May everything that is of us in flesh and stars be with us as we sit within the closeness of our wounds to know the depth of our own wisdoms. In deep honesty and courage, feeling ourselves uniting around this, the words that are said and the words that are still left unsaid. I invite each of you to fill in this opening prayer and ritual with your words, with your frequencies, with your heart tones, with your souls. Knowing as we are with ourselves so deeply, we are with the other. I raise this prayer for this convergence of now what, and for many collective convergences that are happening around the globe at this time, that are both in form and out of form. Lastly, we raise the frequency of love, that all of this connection of consciousness and knowing are frequencies of unconditional love and beingness. For us to remember that, for us to know that in all of our uncertainty or doubt, in our confusion, in our clarity, in our knowing, and in our power, that these are all expressions of love. And to invite ourselves into that remembrance and to know in presence how to invite others into that remembrance. Thank you so much. This is my opening prayer, and I leave it incomplete because it's all of our words together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anayza. Let's just let that simmer. And Anayza, if you wouldn't mind unmuting and just let the continuation of the aliveness of that place rest in us just for a few breaths.
Thank you.
We are the screech of the bird. We are the wind in the palms. We are the bark of the dog and the voices of the workers raised at work. Thank you for that beautiful blessing, Anayza. And now we'll move on to Suzanne Jones in the Pacific Northwest, I believe. And Suzanne, who has led and will continue to lead our sing sessions throughout these next 6 weeks. We welcome you, and over to you, Suzanne.
Welcome, everyone. Yeah, we get together every Thursday. It's around 12 p.m. my time on the Pacific West Coast, but we have people from all over the globe at all hours of the day and night joining us. And this is one of our favorite songs. I'm going to play this one, and hopefully you can all sing along with me. And one of the problems with Zoom is it doesn't sync very well. So as much as I would love for us all to sing together, I'd also like for us to have a quiet space where we can really take this song in. And the words are in the chat. We'll sing it through about 4 times because it is a musical chant. It's called The Way. We don't have to know the way knows the way. We don't have to plan the way, trust the way, feel the way. The way knows the way, the way knows the way. We don't have to know the way knows the way. We don't have to plan the way, trust the way, feel the way. The way knows the way, the way knows the way. We don't have to know the way knows the way. We don't have to plan the way, trust the way, feel the way. The way knows the way, the way knows the way. One more time. We don't have to know the way
Mm. Thank you, Suzanne. Wow. Profound. I'm struck by the idea of the pathless path, and yet the way knows the way. Both are true. Both are true. I believe Ben Roberts, who is the founder here of our wonderful Now What gathering, and Akiko, who is the co-conspirator and designer of this incredible experience, are going to navigate us through some of the maps to help ground us in who's here and how to get connected even more deeply with those whom you may know or whom you may want to know better. Over to you.
Hello again. Hi, Akiko.
Hello.
So shall we start? This is the Now What Network map, which has information about some of the locations of people here, and not all of it perfect, but it gives you some sense of where the folks gathering for the current edition are coming from. We could select all and see more, but this is who's indicated so far that they're coming. And a lot of people, if they don't have a location, they wind up getting put here, whoops, in the Gulf of Guinea. We don't quite know why. So there's a bunch of folks there. And clearly we're missing South America. We need to work on that before the 6 weeks are over, because we're still in invitation mode. And this view shows how much we're already connected, or at least the connections that people have recorded. The orange lines show who'd like to connect to whom. So you can find yourself on the map and select yourself, see some information, or somebody else and see information about them. And then just click focus and we can see that Joy wants to meet Dunya, or wanted to. This might be old data. And Yoko Sonia wants to meet Joy. Akiko, do you want to say some more? Maybe we'll go to this view.
Yeah, this is the first time I tried to get the Japanese people, because last time I was alone as a Japanese, and I wanted to get more people because Now What is so wonderful. I wanted to share with the Japanese people, and now we are like 24 Japanese, and we created the home group called Japanese Speakers. And even though you are not Japanese, you speak Japanese, please come and join us. And we have an event called Experience Japan. So if you want to know more about Japan and Japanese culture, please join our event. And please get in touch with people in the Japanese group. They all have a different talent. So I hope you will discover many people.
So the circles that have the blue around them are engagement streams. So Experience Japan is an engagement stream. There'll be many different sessions over the next 6 weeks. And we're still adding all of these to the map. So apologies if I know so many of you here have streams that you're offering and we don't have them up here yet, but that will be shown. And then you can actually go into your own mapping dashboard and show that you plan to participate or you'd like more information, or if it's a red line, it means you're in a lead role. So you can also see who you might contact to find out more about a particular engagement stream. The green ones are partners. And again, I know we have some partners that aren't yet on here that we want to add in the next week or so. So hopefully by next Monday, this will all be fixed. And you can click on each of these and see more information about them Here's Clare's Dynamic Emergence Initiative, for example. So there'll be a video also about the map, but I think we've accomplished our basic purpose of, oh, let me show you one more thing before we go though. Let's go back to the main map view and show what it looks like if we show all the participants from all the editions of Now What. And again, this is only the people who added themselves to the map. So there are more than this that have been a part of the gathering. Oops. And of course, we're all just connected to a much larger network, a mycelial mat of transformational change agents and people of goodwill and good intention, which I believe we all are at heart.
And if you haven't put your pictures on the map, please do so. Otherwise, you are just kind of a green dot. And we would like to see your face or something else you can put.
And just a question for both of you. If there's an arrow that says someone would like to meet you, does that happen organically? Does one just take note of that and say, okay, then I'm going to start a conversation somehow? Tell us more about that.
Right. It's not, you might imagine that the technology is so amazing that as soon as you put that arrow in, an email notification goes out. No, that doesn't happen. So you have to go to the map and look for who's indicated that. Again, all this happens in the connections tab. I don't know if we want to take up too much more time with it. I'll record a video that shows people, and also send an email out to everyone that's already on the map that gives you the link to update stuff. So that'll all be coming in the next day or two. And if you're not on the map and want to add yourself, you go to the website nowwhat2021.com and you'll see the links there. I'll put that in the chat too.
Yeah. Okay. And if you couldn't find your own link, just tell us. We can send it.
Right. We can get it to you as well.
Great. I think you shared what that page looks like with the first group, but that's fine as long as if somebody needs that, they know who to reach out to. That's great.
Yeah, and they'll be in the video. There'll be a help tab on the website soon too with the video.
Wonderful. Wow, that looked like an organism. That whole the intelligence. And so we're in a time. And Dr. Stephanie Mines is going to walk us through some perspective about where we are in our states of health or unhealth as persons, as communities, as a global interconnected world. And so I invite Dr. Stephanie Mines, whose mission is healing, to lead us through this next section. And you might unmute yourself.
I did unmute myself and somebody muted me, but there we go. Wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. When I hear the word opening, which this is, the first image that comes to me is birth. And I had both my children at home. And I remember when my second daughter was being born, my older daughter was there, and she was literally gobsmacked. Her mouth was hanging open, seeing how much opening occurred to deliver a child into the world. And I'm a student of birth. I'm an embryologist and a neuroscientist. Brain development is my area of focus. And I know from those details that that journey into the world, into new manifestation, is fraught with crisis and challenge, and is in fact, no matter how it happens, incredibly threatening. And I also know that the magnitude of that threat, that life and death threat that occurs in the birthing process, birth and death are intimately entwined, that exact experience of coming into the world to birth a new human fuels neuronal development, fuels the expression of new resilience within the brain structures. That is science. The incredibly compressive, threatening, crisis-ridden state of coming into the world, no matter how it happens, is the very force that delivers neuroresilience, that creates the evolution of consciousness. Without that friction, consciousness does not evolve. And so it is now. And I can tell you personally, as someone devoted to the continuity of humanity, and someone learning every day, every hour, to be a voice for this living earth, that when we engage with that magnitude of vitality, that we birth the new humanity. When we become voices for our living earth and for the continuity of our children and our children's children, we fuel neurodevelopment. Any denial of the power of that friction is suicidal. So to birth the new humanity, I invite you to engage in embodied activism. That's the engagement stream that I'm delivering in this new iteration of Now What. Many of the presenters in that engagement stream are here with us. Claire and I joined together, I believe, fuel voicing truth. Joy Foley and Auntie Callie, brilliant, gorgeous women, will share the birth of what they're creating in Peace Valley together. And Auntie Callie just led this burn ceremony. I watched it. Thank you so much for recording that. Now there you have it. There you have it. Birth and death together. And what that reminds me of also is my inspiration, Dr. Usman Ali Pam from the Sahel, West Africa, who's part of our Walking the Land that came out of climate change and consciousness, that Joy and Auntie Callie are also part of. And his gorgeous smile as he talks about facing the crisis that his people face every hour, the crisis of desertification, drought, flooding, almost one right after the other. And think of his gorgeous smile. And there you have the vitality that comes from engaging directly with embodied activism, stepping up to the crisis. That's exactly the way Usman describes it. He faces the crisis by joining ancient traditional technologies, just as Auntie Callie just did with the burn ceremony, with current awareness. That's it. That's the formula. And Angus, who's here with his mom, I always love that Angus always shows up with his mom, is also presenting in embodied activism. And Angus, precious being that he is going to show us how we can express our love for the mother, and he does that with his mother, by how we are in relationship to the land right where we are. Those are just a few tastes of the embodied activism engagement stream, all of them being openings to how invigorating it is. And I say that really personally. I know the hard work that it takes to face this crisis. But with that hard work, I can tell you, this is my personal truth. I am directly experiencing the neuro-resilience that results from that. The way that we evolve, I can feel it, I experience it. And I want to seduce you into neuro-resilience, the key to longevity, not just for you, but for all of humanity. So I want to close with some somatic touch and movement experiences that support the evolution of your consciousness, the evolution of your nervous system, which is possible at any stage of life, which is open at any stage of life. So there are sites that are in the bend of the elbow, right in that little bend that happens. Quite naturally, there's a valley. And if you hold that little valley with any finger on both the right and the left side simultaneously, and you can let your arms rest if that's more comfortable. These sites create boundaries. And what those boundaries do is allow you to be focused. If we don't turn away from the distractions that attempt constantly to try to take us away from facing this crisis, we will lose momentum. So sacred site number 19 in the map of the body that I teach in my sustainable health paradigm supports the joy of focus. This is not a loss. Engaging in embodied activism is not a serious, angry business. And it's quite the opposite. It's a joyful opening into the very service we were born to offer our children and our children's children. So we can follow this by a movement. I love this movement. We bring our hands above our heads. I'm bringing my palms together, and this is called an inju in the paradigm that I teach, but it's also namaste. It's also a prayer position. So we bring that prayer position above the crown of our heads. And then I'm going to suggest that you rotate your palms outward. So we begin with the prayer position, and then we rotate the palms outward. And then we move those outwardly extended palms to carve out our space. So as if pushing those distractions, those confusions, those minimizations of the power that we have to evolve into the new human, we push against that through the center of the palm of the hand. with force, not painful force, but centered force. And you'll find a widening across your clavicles, an opening of the heart, an upper body strengthening. And you keep pushing and you keep clearing, making space for yourself and your voice and your own personal, unique embodied activism. And as your palms descend at their own pace, letting them carve out your space, they will come to rest on the lateral aspects of your mid-thigh. And please let them rest there. Let the palms of your hands rest there, because this too is a sacred site. And this is the site, coming back to the subject of birth. I know this so personally. This is the site that when the woman in labor feels that she's stuck, and of course, if she's stuck, that means the baby is stuck in some way. So when that dyadic attunement between mother and child is stuck, and there doesn't seem to be any movement forward, this is the site that you hold. Sacred site, high one, it's called. The lateral aspect of the mid-thigh. Let your palms rest there, and this removes those obstacles, whatever might be keeping you stuck. So let your palms feel the vibration from your connective tissue in that area. The connective tissue that unraveled from the egg in your mother's body, which unraveled from the egg in her mother's body, which unraveled from the egg in her mother's body. That same connective tissue you are connecting with there. And as you soften into that and feel the way that knows the way, let your breath allow you to return to the prayer in you at the heart level and at the juncture where the heart level meets the throat. And allow your embodied activism to liberate your consciousness. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Already, I don't know about the rest of you, already I feel more resourced. Already I feel more capable. Already I feel more inspired to lend my gifts to be that voice for our beloved Earth and to step into embodied activism. And we're going to move now with that inspiration, with that invitation. We're going to move into inviting our intentions for this now moment, for these 6 weeks. Who do we want to be? What gifts do we want to bring forward? How do we want to embody our love for this planet? And I'm putting in the chat a form. So just pause for a few minutes, and then we're going to and think about it. And then we're going to go into small groups in breakout rooms and share that. But first, the invitation is to consider filling out this form, which I'm now going to find the link again since it didn't.
It's in the chat.
Is it a link though? I didn't see that it took as a link. Do you see it as a link? Here, I'm going to do that again.
I just added it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you, Dita. So wonderful. So take a few moments and fill out this intentions form.
And it's always fine to pass.
Thank you, Ben.
How will these be shared, Jennifer? You're muted.
Yes. It's a good question. I don't have a ready answer. Hanali and I are going to combine both of the inputs from both of the opening ceremonies, and perhaps a blog entry, and perhaps even a conversation about that as we go forward into the immersion of this experience.
So people's emails, you're collecting them, but they won't be in some public place then?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Couple more minutes.
I feel like we're watching the master at work as Ben artfully puts together this assembly.
I think he's doing his grocery list. Just kidding, Ben. Didn't I mention laughter?
I'm trying to get an A on this little exam you've set for us. I don't know if I have enough time.
Okay. Heads are up, so I'm thinking we're ready. to move into small groups, and we will broadcast the question as a reminder. We'll be in most likely groups of 3. Some could be in groups of 2. And the question really with the invitation that we've, the blessing, the invitation, seeing the organism, the map of all of us. The question that I would invite you to consider and share with your breakout room members is what will you risk? What will you risk in yourself as you move through these next few weeks with the rest of the organism, this wonderful gathering of people? What is it that is really being called forth in you? And Ben has, I think so dutifully, gotten our, and about 10 minutes, I think.
I was going to ask. Okay.
Yeah, so about 3 minutes each person, and as we know, and many of us are already experts in this space. I'm looking here at Rick. I'm looking here at John and others. Helen. We don't need to fix each other. We don't need to provide solutions. We just allow the person to be presenced and to be witnessed in their sharing.
They had the rooms all set up and somehow they got wiped out. Give me a second to do it again.
Oh, perfect.
Reflect on the question in silence, and I'm going to pause the recording.
We were just getting started. I would love to hear from a few people, popcorn style, what struck you about the conversation? A few people just, what resonated with you? What struck you about it?
Just being in space together, always a gift. So.
Well, I think as I was mentioning, the delight to have Ben in our group, but the beauty of breakout rooms in Zoom and the ability to have intimacy in a small group, and how that intimacy draws out the vulnerability, the willingness to invest that and take that risk, which was my risk of being vulnerable in these coming weeks.
And now you've been roped into doing a World Cafe on anti-racism across the Atlantic.
Don't tell anybody, Ben. I'll get Dita to help me on that.
I'd like to share. It's just so beautiful to learn people, to listen, and it just reminds me just how much each human being has to offer, and how their offering is a salve and a reminder to my own soul every time. So yeah, thank you.
What struck me was how real people got, and the sense of connection that it brought out. It was really nice. I appreciated it a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, perhaps we should call this the no armor zone, right? Sometimes I feel like I have to armor up in order to be out in the world. So maybe it's a new guideline for us. How about others? What struck you?
It struck me how true something that was said as an answer to the question rang for me. And it was very simple. I don't know. I don't know what risks I'm willing to take.
I was really struck by the gentleness, the gentle energy that the people in my group showed up with. And this is a common experience for me. And now what I was reminded again, yes, this is a safe place.
I feel a need to elaborate on what Dita said. Because that was my response. And the reason it was my response is, how can I answer that? How can I answer a question that's so big without an actual event, like a moment? And the only thing I know is that I will be measured, if anyone's measuring, I will be measured by how I meet things as they come to me, as I meet them. And I can't tell in advance what will be the right action, what will feel right, and what level of risk and vulnerability, transparency will come from me, and from me as an individual and me as a collective. So to me, to treat that question as a real question, I have to say I don't know, rather than manufacture something that sounds impressive or bold. I will find out who I am as I go and meet everything as it meets me. And I hope, I really hope, that I do what's possible justice.
Thank you for that, Claire. Wonderful. Yes. We're going to move in a moment to our close. I'm not seeing Joy. I don't know if she's here. And
I'm here.
You are here. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to, it's hard to, anyway, wonderful. As we, before Joy brings us into a close, I wanted to read this. It's funny, this came up in our breakout room. Now is the time. This wonderful poem by the 14th century Prussian mystic Hafiz. And Auntie Kali is the one who said, now is the time. And so I felt that this was indeed important to read. I had prepared to read it. Now is the time. Now is the time to know that all you do is sacred. Now, why not consider a lasting truce with yourself and the Infinite One? Now is the time to understand that all your ideas of right and wrong were just a child's training wheels to be laid aside. When you can finally live with veracity and love. Now is the time for the world to know that every thought and action is sacred. That this is the time for you to compute the impossibility that there is anything but grace. Now is the season to know that everything you do is sacred. From Hafiz. Wisdom for centuries old. And speaking of wisdom, Joy Foley from Peace Valley in Australia is going to take us out with a ritual closing in celebration of this opening. And take it away, Joy. And I think don't everybody leave, because there's some things right after a party, I think, maybe. Okay, Joy.
So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody. So what I thought would be really lovely to do to close is just to integrate a little bit of what we've been experiencing in the last little while together as a group. So I'd just like to invite you all to just get comfortable in your seat, feel your feet on the ground, feel the connection to Mother Earth. Allow your breath to just soften and deepen. And with each in-breath, breathing in the gift of life from all the trees and the plants around us. And as we breathe out, returning that gift of reciprocity, gift of life back to the trees, in perfect balance and harmony. And just allow your body to relax even more with each out-breath. Notice too the connection to the sky, to the sun, to the stars. And just feel how connection, it's infinite, down into the center of the earth and up to the end of the universe and beyond. We are just one point in the great field of unity, of oneness that is. So now let's just sit in silence for a moment. I'm going to sound a bowl and you can hear the sound of the birds in the forest, and I'll sound again in about 2 minutes. So now as we come back, I'd just like to thank everybody that's been here with us, the unseen ones, the future beings, the ancestors. I'd particularly like each of us to thank in our own space, the ancestors of the space where we are. Here, I'd like to thank the Gullible Nation who've cared for this land since time immemorial. That's now part of the Githable Nation. And I'd like to invite everybody to move forward into these next weeks with love, openness, joy, and let's do it. Let's party. Thank you.
Great thanks to you, Joy, and to Ben, and to Dita, and to Claire, and to Anayza, and to Stephanie, and to all of you who have contributed already with your energy, your intentions, and your presence. And I will turn it over to perhaps Dita or Ben for some final words of invitation to the dance party.
Maybe I'll just offer a little more about now what, and then let Dita invite us to the dance. I think we'll be celebrating our 2-year anniversary, along with the 2-year anniversary of climate change and consciousness, this Thursday, Earth Day, with Stephanie and some very special guests, Mama Visalela, Sue Lennox, and Deborah Milton. And now what was born out of a desire to be of service to initiatives like Climate Change and Consciousness and the Wellbeing Economy Alliance and R3.0 and Gather Lab, all these different networks and that we're forming, a lot of them doing conferences to gather people around the need for a fundamental change, to imagine a different future, a just, equitable, regenerative future full of healing, of the harms that we've inflicted on ourselves and our mother, and the sense of urgency in the time of crisis for all of that. And what's happened over these 2 years, I think, within Now What is we've come together as a community, and we've figured out how to nourish ourselves individually and collectively. And my sense of what's possible and the risk that I invite us all to consider is how much do you want to invest as a community in offering something out to the wider world, to go back to that original vision of saying we're here in service of something much, much bigger than us. We have needs and that's important, and that provides a base. And what would happen if the potential for the gifts we have to the wider world were really brought forth? So that's my invitation to all of you here now and perhaps watching this later. And with that, I think we're going to open up some breakouts. I set up 5 of them. One of them is a disco where Dita's going to spin some tunes. But maybe you want to say a little more about that, Dita, before we move on.
No, just bring your desire to dance. And you're welcome to turn your screen off, but then we will just scoff at you.